Hi everybody, Andy Nelson here. So what do you really know about copyright? Okay, what comes to mind? You might think it's the right to control duplications of whatever your work is. Copies, right? It's built right in the name. If you thought that, you would be partially correct. Let me show you how. Years ago, I used to watch this television show called Rock, R-O-C, early 90s sitcom. I learned years later that it was the subject of a copyright lawsuit. And so some of you might be thinking, what show did it copy? What was it duplicating? Well, it wasn't doing that at all. The issue was in a single episode, there was a scene, this is less than 30 seconds or so, where the characters were having a conversation, what have you, and on a wall behind them was a piece of artwork. Now, it was a legitimate piece of artwork, that is, it was a legitimate copy of the person who created the artwork, but the author of that piece of artwork did not give permission for the artwork to be publicly displayed. That is, displayed to an appreciable number of people, not just kind of close family and friends. And that is one of the rights that a copyright holder has. The right to control copies, that's still kind of an obvious one. The right to control public display of one's artwork, with some exceptions. There are always exceptions to every rule, of course. There's also the right to publicly perform a work. Now, that doesn't work for all sorts of work. You can't publicly perform a piece of art, but let's say you write a play, a script, or what have you. You get to control the performance, the public performance as well. Here's an odd one. Years ago, I had a client who imported a bunch of foreign language films, and they were legit copies. There's nothing, these weren't pirated, these weren't bootlegs. But there's an import right. The copyright holder has the right to import from outside the US into the US, even legitimate copies of one's work. So there's this whole bundle of rights, is what we call it, that goes along with copyright. So what the point is don't just think of copyright laws as providing some avenue to control mere copies, duplicates, or other things that are substantially similar than one's work, but it's much broader than that. And one other right that I will mention is the right to control or create derivative works. This happens a lot. So a simple example, let's say that piece of artwork I just talked about that appeared on Rock. Let's say it's something that someone could create a sculpture out of, the contents of it. I don't remember what that artwork was, but you take a painting and you decide to make a sculpture out of the painting. That derives from basically the core of that other product. That would be a derivative work, which again, the copyright holder owns that right. So that's something that can't be done. This happens a lot, right? You have a screenplay that's converted to a book or vice versa or what have you. Those would be derivative works of the original. So that's yet another right. So a lot of folks who decide to kind of do fan art and write their own Star Wars stories or what have you, might be trouble there because those are likely derivative works, especially if they're going to be based on some of the existing characters over which there's copyright protection. So anyway, the lesson here, once again, full circle, is copyright doesn't just prevent, or I should say, doesn't just protect the right to limit or control copies of one's work, but it's a whole bundle of various rights. So, from the defense perspective, you got to be careful so you don't inadvertently encroach on someone else's rights when you didn't think you weren't making a copy. It can be way worse than that. But you also, if you're a creative and you create works, you want to be kind of aware of the sorts of things that are kind of within that bundle of rights that you have as an author. And I use that word author in the legal sense, which is not just writing, but that means any creator of expressive works is an author. At any rate, if you have any questions about this video, drop me a comment, shoot me a message. If you think somebody else will benefit from this, please feel free to share it. And I look forward to talking to you next time. Bye-bye.